Hey everybody, this is Perch. We got a mail here. Hey, happy day, Perch. I hope life is well. Yeah, well, why not? I was curious about your thoughts on the price increases. Boom seems to be moving to $4.99 books. Dynamite is doing all $4.99 in cardstock covers. I roll. I know it's rumored that Marvel is going back to $3.99, but that seems less likely than ever. I've even noticed that G.I. Joe books from Skybound are $4.99, though maybe it's just the first issues. I don't know how many books are adding more pages, perhaps cardstock covers, but is this a good decision? I know it'll impact and reduce what I buy, but maybe I'm the only guy being priced out. Also, what are your thoughts on facsimile books being priced at regular cover prices or higher? That's work that's already been done and made money. I'd probably buy more if they weren't the same price as a new book. So the cost of comics is an interesting dynamic because in many cases, it's something that feeds itself. So the problem in a market, whatever the product is, whether it's comics or anything, is that, there's this, they call it setting the price. And then when you set the price, then, you run into situations where eventually inflation, other aspects come in. You have to take price, which means you increase your cost or your price for your book because your costs have increased. But the challenge is what hopefully you do if you have a nice, strong, sustainable business is that you set price at a level where you still have a healthy margin and, the financials are all working out for you, but you haven't priced yourself into a box where, the price is so high that your market starts to question how much of it they want to buy. Because as soon as you get into that loop, basically what happens is the market goes, well, that's very expensive. Instead of buying 3 books, I'm going to buy 2. And then when they buy 2 books, your overall profits go down. And so in order to make up your costs, you increase the price, which causes people to then further reduce the books they're going to buy. And you get into this death spiral, which is what it feels like comics are at now. By the way, I have no evidence. I have heard that Marvel is, you've heard the rumors that are going to go $3.99. My guess is that Marvel is going to go to $3.99 for some of the books, but then there will be plenty of events and everyone relaunches and all that kind of bullshit. In the weirdest way, Marvel, to a very lesser extent DC, but really Marvel, because they have geared so much of their business to variants and and larger bulk orders to specific shops and things like that, it means they actually can have the price set lower to say $3.99. But what's really going on there is they're just accepting a lower margin because they believe that the majority of their profits and money is going to be coming from the variant covers and kind of those pre-buys and other things that they're doing, those minimum commits. But that's very unhealthy. And here's why. When you kind of, as a business that have a regular recurring comic or a product, in this case, product is a comic, and you basically determine that the default or base product is going to be sold at margin or a very thin profit. And instead, you're going to make all of your money based on a collector scheme. Well, you're basically saying that, you believe the collector market is going to last for the foreseeable future. Because remember what I said earlier, once you kind of get yourself into a set price, it's very hard for you to move from it. You can't move down because you've set the market. And the only place for you to go is up. But if you kind of trained your customer base to gear toward collectors, then your mass market is going to have a hard time accepting any price increase because they're already stretched thin. All of this just means it's a very bad cycle. Now, Marvel will tell you that they're making a lot of money internationally and overseas and other things, and that's fine. They're making money out licensing, and all of that is okay, but the challenge that, say, a Marvel has is because they are serialized entertainment and because their primary product exists in a monthly output format, they really need that core part of their business to be healthy. They're not large enough that they can have the core part of their business, the monthly comics coming out, being a loss leader, and just make money everywhere else. Their money is made through, by and large, the collector market. The collector market is fickle. And, you might say, well, maybe that's just speculation on my part, but it's not. We know it's fickle. We watched Marvel learn this lesson in a really ugly way in the 90s. And so it's odd that the company seems determined to kind of wander down that same path again, where, they're banking a lot on a market that has proven itself to be, let's just say, not always reliable. So, I think it's all dangerous. Look, and for as far as the facility stuff goes, that's just stupid. If there's anything in your lineup that should be a loss leader, it is the facility editions, because those are the products that, in theory, would bring new readers in and kind of get people hooked on a comic. And you can pick and choose between the golden years of any particular run. I mean, if you're trying to get people into the X-Men, you print the Silvestri and Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld stuff, and you basically publish the best of the best. You publish the Whedon Cassidy run that was very popular with the masses. By the way, as an interesting aside, a lot of people who are in the comic business credit the Grant Morrison run, the Morrison Quietly run of X-Men, as being kind of the pinnacle. But if you look at the financials and you look at, what was mass market commercial appeal, it was that Joss Whedon Cassidy run. But you rarely hear people inside the biz talk about that Joss Whedon run as being, powerful and successful. But you could make a very compelling argument that run is what helped the X-Men survive the years of, Fox having the rights and Marvel really not knowing what the fuck they want to do with it and trying to prioritize the Inhumans over it and all the other kind of dumb stuff the X-Men have been through for more than a decade. The Morrison run, and by the way, I liked the Morrison run. I'm not beating up on it just, to be a dick. I actually liked that run. I thought the run was good. I love the Quietly art. I mean, the Jimenez run was good there too. I think there were good comics there. But if I'm talking about commercial success, that Astonishing run did better, sold better in trade, and has a lot more upside to it. But anyway, all this said, I just think there's some smart business here that needs to occur. And, I don't know why pricing is an issue, but the problem is the comic companies have got themselves into a pretty bad spot, where, what are you going to do at this point? You're locked into a price. It's probably too expensive of a price. And, you're if you lower it, your margin is blown up at this point. If you raise it, people are going to scream bloody murder because, they're already paying too much, and you can't gouge them more. Like the comics are the only solution to all this, by the way, is that you've got to find distribution channels where you can start to move more volume. That's the only way to work yourself out of it. In a kind of a perfect world, what should happen is that comic books should figure out another distribution path. You leverage that distribution path to basically, pump out an extra 50,000, whatever it happens to be, comics out into the mix. And then, you can afford to have them be cheaper because your volumes are up. That's really, that's your path. The other option is you double down on the collector market. You just try and really, put an emphasis on that, but then you're living in fear week after week that the collectors are going to go away in any kind of mass. And P.S., by the way, if you're going to go after the collector market, then you have to completely abort the strategy of get new readers by introducing slice of life type things. And you need to go completely into lock up every big name artist that you can find, hope they don't die of old age, and just start pumping that stuff out. You need every comic to have like 20 variant covers. You have your Walt Simonson variant cover, and your Mark Bright cover, and your Mignola cover, and your Art Adams cover, and dig up some Jim Lee stuff from back in the day that you never printed, or whatever it happens to be. You got to just go all in on that stuff, because and just know that it's a dying market. The people who are collectors every year are going to shed if they don't think it's a strong investment. And nobody in their right mind is going to think that, variant covers, which are being pumped out way beyond saturation point, are a good investment. So it's all this is very dangerous. The right answer is figure out some distribution channels, figure out the next lily pad to hop onto, get comic prices lower because you're pushing more volume, so your margins are staying up. That's what you have to do. And stop telling people that like all is well overseas and we're actually making lots of money. Whether that's true or not, if the majority of your money is coming off of remnant work, meaning you're basically selling on the fumes of past glory, the natural, logical, common sense, analysis of that is, hey, if you don't get some hits over the next 5 years, it's going to be 2030, and you're still going to be trying to push, special collector's edition of the Mutant Massacre up a hill. Like you got to have some new stuff that's popular, and that's you're put it this way, an easier analogy. Your comic book business needs to sell off of value, not sell off of junk food. And in many ways, the collector market is junk food. It's a temporary high. It doesn't get you very much, and it's very easy for that to disappear. You've got to get some hits in the bank, and you haven't had true hits in a long time. You've got to get a sustained, like I say this all the time, the value of a sustained run, a run of 24 issues or more, is that you could pump up omnibus versions and trade paperbacks and hardcover and softcover, and you could reprint that shit to eternity. That's your gold. I'll throw one more thing at you that I've hinted at from time to time, but we've never done a full video on it, which is this. One of the problems I believe in comics from a business model perspective is that the publishers basically get nothing from the back issue market. Now, you can make the argument, and I agree with you, by the way, that they don't deserve any of the back issue market. They sold the comic, and, comic shops took the risk, and comic shops are now able to turn it for a profit because various things happened. That's good for comic shops. It's good for retailers. But the problem is that chunk of money, the publishers get no value from. They basically have no piece of that money. And so because of that, they are less inclined to do things to boost that market. But that's very short-sighted thinking, because the comic publishers, a very healthy back issue market means people are getting hooked on these comics and become lifelong readers, subscribers, and buyers. Dirty little secret, the people who are buying the variant covers and are propping up this industry as collectors are people who, once upon a time spent $100 a week on comics because they were buying a ton of stuff. The collectors typically are not random, people who don't like comics or just really into your variant cover. They're people who are hardcore collectors. And so, that audience, don't spit on that audience. If that audience, if one day collecting comic variant covers becomes unfashionable, it goes the way of the pog, you're screwed. And you're screwed fast. Marvel and DC would hurt a lot, very, very rapidly. And when people get bored of stuff like that, it typically doesn't take long. It tends to be an overnight, the world is fucked kind of scenario. So anyway, thank you very much for the rail. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course. As always, thanks for listening.